All right, I feel it's time to talk about 2D6 Realm now that I have played it a bit. And spoiler alert, I died in my realm. And I'm going to talk to you in this video about how I died, my thoughts about the game, and where I'm going to go next. And I would love people's opinions about where I should go next. And to do that, to give the best sense of this experience, I want to start back in 2D6 dungeon with the character that I was playing. Tellingly, I think, for me and my concerns about this game or my issues with the game, I played through 4 levels of 2D6 dungeon without giving my character a name. When I got 2D6 Realm in my mail and I wanted to start playing, it was after I had created my videos with Silverfoot. And Silverfoot, if you go back and watch some recent videos on my channel, is the kind of hapless character that made an appearance in the one sheet dungeon and adventure sheets. And so I named my character Silverfoot. Now, here you'll see Silverfoot is a level 2 character. It was the character that played through a bunch of levels in 2D6 Dungeon. I'm going to show you that if you watch the channel, and if you don't, I'm about to tell you. Naming my character Silverfoot was probably what caused him to be on the path toward a demise. And in this case, the demise was at the hands of a raptured Shimbe. It was a level 5. I felt I had no choice but to fight it. And I'm going to take you through sort of how I got to that place, how far I got in my realm, and then I pose the question, like, what should I do now? So when I started 2D6 Dungeon, I had my unnamed character and I started to play. And the reason why I got so far with the unnamed character, and the reason why I think the fact that I could get so far with the unnamed character exists, is that in this game, which is so rich in some ways about description and environment of the dungeon and tables of different monsters that you can encounter and different things that you can access in dungeon rooms, I've always felt a little bit like it's kind of blank in terms of what the character is. And I've talked about that in other videos. I'm not going to go through that here. It's not really the point of this video, but it for me boils down to just these matching of the dice and the kind of lackluster combat that I experienced in the game. But yet I kept going back to the game for all the reasons that one does, which is basically the tables that it offers and the richness of the experience that you can have in that way, and indeed the richness of the dungeons that you end up traveling through. This is my level 1 dungeon, and I called it the Hall of the Wandering Cultist. We have an apothecary there, some barracks, a mess hall. A lot happened, and it was really enjoyable and engaging, and I picked up a bunch of stuff. I had a bunch of combats. It was what one looks for in a pen and paper dungeon crawl. I ended up with a ton of stuff, and in my case, I don't pay too much attention to like where the stuff goes or how much of it I can have. I guess I kind of keep to the potions, but basically I just sort of had stuff and I would look around and see how I could use it, and that worked really well. Moving on, I got to level 2 with my same character and had a great experience there. Kept going. This is all before I had 2D6 Realm at all. And then on the 3rd level, I I died. I died by a patrol, and it was pretty early into that dungeon where that happened. At that point, I decided that I wanted to sort of revive my character because I didn't want to go back and play the first levels again. I can't remember, this was a while ago, how I decided to revive my character, whether I just kept going and gave some HP. I truly don't recall. And then I went through level 4, the dungeon level 4. I called it level 4, the return. There was something with a magical amulet. Again, this was a while ago. I don't remember the details exactly. And then that's when my 2D6 realm arrived. So I took my character from everything that I had, which I had accumulated through level 4, and started my realm. And I got, in terms of my realm, I got this far. So this represented maybe 2 months. I had done some exploration. I had a chasm here. I found some places like this cave that I named, that you could do other exploration within. The first of the other explorations within I did were, I think, were these ruins up here. And I had drawn what I found in there. There were some, I think these were also some barracks. It's hard to remember. There's my homestead, of course. I found more ruins, and I started to build a manor with a vegetable garden to generate some income. I discovered this lake, and my initial goal was to build a fishery on the lake. So I was going to go in that direction. And I say was because what ended up happening was on one of the explorations that I did, that's when I ended up encountering that. And here are some of I started to draw some of the other things. This was a small tomb that my first kind of internal exploration that I did. In any event, I encountered that level 5 enemy and felt the need to fight it. And let me get it back here to show you. It probably wasn't the wisest thing to do. It had 40 HP, but it offered that tantalizing 500 experience. And it did, unfortunately, quite a bit of damage, d6 plus 4 damage here, but I had something I could use that I thought would help, and indeed it did help for a bit, which was this staff of claws. So I could use this at the beginning of combat for 8 turns to basically fight first and to cause the enemy to miss on their turn. And I used that pretty successfully, getting this fellow down to, I think it was 19 health, but in the end, it just did not work out for me. And so once again, poor Silverfoot here, as I indicated here in my notes somewhere, RIP Silverfoot. So what do I think of all of this? Well, when I look at a game, the first thing I'm concerned about is how immersive is that game? How much do I think about it when I'm not playing it? How involved in it am I when I am playing it? And how much do the mechanics kind of fade away while I'm playing the game so that I can just experience the gameplay? And I would say for 2D6 Realm, for the most part, it succeeded in those points. There's a little bit of challenge, I think, in the way the rules are organized. There's a lot of going back and forth to tables. Some of the tables that are mentioned have the page number called out, which is useful, but some don't. So then you have to go back, if you don't remember, to the end of the book where there is the table of tables, and that's helpful, but it results in a lot of moving back and forth in terms of the pages. It's a little hard to fault the fact that the tables are all over the place because of the fact that they're so dynamic and they come up in gameplay in so many different ways. So I didn't have a problem with that. I'm not sure there was a better way to do it, but I would have liked more attention to the fact that if you're bothering to mention the table, to always give the page number, because that way you don't then have to go to the other reference and come back. I found the building part to be less interesting than I had hoped. I liked the fact that I could plan out. I got the building cards and I looked through them all, and I planned out sort of my goal for I want to build this, and then this. But then when I found the lake, I switched that goal. And I think I think I needed 100 gold or something to build the fishery. And that's why I got greedy, going to try to get some experience with that enemy. And, it didn't go well. So my greed got the best of me on some level there. And that came out of the game. And when something like that happens, that is a plus in the kind of immersion side. So, of course, the next thing or the other thing I look for in a game is the storytelling potential of that game. And of course, that does go hand in hand with the immersion factor. I think for this game, partially it was the fact that so much time had elapsed between when I went through my dungeons and then when I put my realm together, just because I bought this when it came out and then I bought this and it took a while to arrive. So there was time in between. The There wasn't much storytelling. I think that I did not either remember or and I didn't really take notes. I did the visual, but I didn't take notes. Whatever I was kind of telling myself about what was happening in the dungeons by the time I got to my realm. But on the other hand, it's not, I think, just the fault, as it were, or the burden on the player. I'm not sure how much storytelling there is here. I think one of the things that I need to do when I play this again, and I certainly will, is I was definitely naming a little bit. I made up some names like this was one of those herbs, the Catholo spines, I called it. But I think naming the places a little bit more intentionally than I did might be. I just called that Silver Lake because it was Silverfoot and he discovered it. But perhaps that would go toward developing a story. I think having more connection between the dungeon and then starting to make the realm and carrying some of those things over. I think you need to bring a little bit of the storytelling to this game if you want it. Otherwise, it does become a little more, uh, I guess procedural might be one of the words I'm thinking about, or just episodic. Something happens. Even the events that come in, like the last event, like something happened and I lost 100 gold. It wasn't really connected to anything. It was a random event. So yes, randomization, of course, is not necessarily connected, but a lot of what could potentially be plot points you have to string together from the entries on the table that you encounter, if you want that in the game. So on the storytelling piece, I think I need to be more conscious about bringing those uh, strategies into the game. The other thing I look for in a game is what I call like the return factor, meaning, do I want to play this game again? And here, the answer is definitely yes. I liked 2d6 Dungeon enough to buy into the 2d6 realm, and I like 2d6 realm enough to want to go back and really. I don't know if I want to start over. That's the question. I'm curious if you're watching this and thinking about it with me to help me think about what to do. But I do want to have a character that for me has more life in it and is more connected to a story, to a place, and play the game with that coming out and with that being part of the gameplay. But even without it, the return factor, the am I thinking about it again? Do I want to play it again? Definitely exists. I feel a little bit like, I don't want to go back and play another level 1 and 2 dungeon, because I already played, I think, at least 2 level 1s, because the very first time I played, I just died. So I this is where I pose the question to viewers. I could just continue on with my character, basically rename my character or Son of Silverfoot or something like that, and go on with everything I have and just move on. I could start completely over at level 1 and then explore a dungeon, make a realm, and make my story more intentional and connected. I think it's still going to be Son of Silverfoot. Maybe look back at, maybe what I'll do is kind of look back at what happened here and turn that into a legend for my new character and just suck it up and start over at level 1. But what is tantalizing about this game, and I don't have my 2d6 dungeon books here to flip through and show you, but you probably know, is all those tables. And I really want to get to tables for levels 5 to 10. I see them in the book. I haven't gotten there yet, rather than going back to level 1. But there's so many tables for every level, it doesn't really matter. Although there were distinct feelings of the different levels in the dungeon, and so I think that that's where I would want to go back, because I'd like to, get to like the haunted level, or well, I guess I was at the haunted level, but the infernal level, the cultist den, the menagerie. I mean, I want to get that far, but maybe I just have to, like I said, suck it up and go back to the entry. So that is a question I pose for viewers. What do you think I should do? Just, I could start completely over. I could take my stuff and my character and just move on, maybe start over with a new realm, but move on. I could pick up the same realm as if none of this happened, as if I didn't sort of die twice, and keep going. I don't know, but I am going to get back to this. I really do enjoy this game, even though, in my opinion, it has some weaknesses that I struggle to overcome in terms of creating interesting combat. I've talked about this in other videos, ways I've tried to shorten the combat, make it a little more interesting. There is something in 2D6 Realm, I think, about future combat. There's some rules, like some strange rules here for like future combat things, but they're not in this book. It's just like for the future, the legendary dungeons. Maybe I'll take a look at that. I found it odd that it was in here, but maybe I'll take a look at that and see if there's a way I can further tweak the combat to address some of the concerns that I have had about it. But overall, this meets the criteria for me of like thinking about it again, being immersed in it, and sort of wanting to wanting to be more successful at it, and wanting that so much that I may go back and just start all over.